All right, let's channel Judah. Beautiful. And just welcoming Archangel Michael behind Archangel Raphael with the caduceus, Michael with the flaming blue sword, Archangel Gabriel with the healing waters, Archangel Uriel, Sandalphon, Metatron, just creating a perfectly safe, accepting and loving space for this next little while, sending away any entities or fields that are not original to us and not original to our divine purpose, smoothing out the emotional pain of any of those fields that are attached and releasing them out and away back to source. And this just being a safe container and inviting all the Judah angels. I know there are already angels here. I saw them come in during that second song. Thank you to all the angels that are here. We want to receive your blessing, your grace, your healing, your comfort, your help, your assistance. I want it for myself too, for my children, my children's children, everyone that I care for, everyone in the Judah family all around the world. So I thank you, angels. You have freedom here. You have permission, our permission, to do whatever you deem to be right in your eyes, to bring us into more freedom and love and a higher state of consciousness. We ask for the angels to heal our diseases, disease of the mind, the heart, the emotions, and the body. Judah, we welcome your messages, and we give you thanks. Hello, dear and precious ones all around the world. We are especially pleased to be here with you this evening. Yes, this has been a week for this vessel of plowing. We want to speak about that a little while. Life is not all sunshine and roses, as they say, yes? Farmers must plow the soil before it is ready for seed. And then the seed, when it is planted in a soil that has been tilled and cared for with the sweat of brow, then has the potential to grow something new, something living, something nourishing, something sustaining, something life-giving. And there are seasons, dear ones. There are seasons of plowing. There are seasons of planting. There are seasons of watering and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then there are seasons of harvest. And the seasons of harvest are seasons of celebration and rejoicing and celebrating over what, yes, the fruit of your labor and the life that has sprung forth from it. And there are also seasons of winter where everything seems to go fallow and seems to be dead. And much of the suffering that you cause yourself is due to your lack of awareness about what season you are in as a soul, as a person. Yes. And it will cause you upset or disturbance or dis-ease if you are in the middle of a winter season, but you are crying and shaking your fist at the heavens and saying, where are the flowers of spring? Well, the flowers of the spring don't grow in the winter, dear one. They don't. They just do not. They lie fallow in the ground, and they are broken open in what seems like a death. There is a death, but from the death always, always, always comes a rebirth in the right time, in the right season, in the spring when the snow melts and the sun is at its best. And so listen carefully to what we're saying. Know the season that you're in. And embrace it if you can. Embrace it if you can. If you are in a summer season and everything is growing for you, rejoice. Rejoice in this. If you are in a fall, a harvest season, enjoy the fruit of your labor. Relish, dance, sing. Eat of all the goodness of what you have labored for. And if you are a winter, even be content in that. Find a solace in a rest. Find a comfort in the warmth of a fire and good company of those that you love, and allow whatever needs to die to die. And so this vessel has been plowing this week, plowing, 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 plowing in the spirit, plowing in a field called addiction. We have allowed her to experience the pain of those she loves dearly, trapped in this construct of suffering called addiction, and we have allowed it to do a deep work of compassion and generosity and non-judgment in her heart, a deeper work of love, a deeper work of unconditional love. And so it is the job of many mothers and grandmothers and also fathers as well to plow in the realm of the spirit, to break up hardened, fallow ground. For you see, the hearts of humanity on the whole are still so very hard, my dears, so very hard. They are hardened ground, and no seed grows when it's thrown upon a hardened ground, yes? Love wants to grow. Love wants to be seated in your heart. Peace and joy, happiness, fulfillment, abundance. All of these things we want to be seated in your hearts, seated not just in your hearts here, but in all the hearts of all of humanity. So we are looking for those who will till the soil, the hardened soil of the heart. Yes, we're looking for those who have the strength of spirit, the will of spirit, strength of spirit to keep plowing the hardened ground until it is soft, until it is ready to receive the seed of love and warmth and compassion and tenderness. And so we're speaking this message for many of you here tonight. You have those in your life who seem to be a lost cause, but we want you to know no one is a lost cause. Absolutely no one is a lost cause. There is hope for all souls. All souls are in an evolution. All souls are spiraling upwards and outwards back into their divine perfection. All souls are in a process of remembering. Many are unconscious and yes, hardened in heart. Be patient. Be patient. Love, 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 till the soil until it's ready for the seeds that you have so generously to offer. And be mindful of your seeds, dear one. Know where to plant them and know when to hold them. As the old song was said, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run, know when to play your cards. You see, each of you, life has dealt you a hand. And you can only play the cards that life has dealt you, yes? Sometimes you have a winning hand, sometimes not so much. And you must know when to play your cards. You must know when to fold them. You must know when to walk away, and you must know when to run. So we want you to be in reality, yes? We understand that you are taught in this culture, this beautiful spiritual culture of which you are a part, to be positive, to look towards what is brighter, lighter, more life-giving. And yes, yes, yes to all of that. But also we don't want you to live in a realm of magical thinking. We want you to be firmly grounded and rooted in reality. We want you to tell yourself the truth about yourself and others and the world around you. Yes, and then dream a bigger dream. Dream a brighter dream. Know the sun always comes, the rain always comes, and all the seasons unfold as they will. We are here tonight. We are present. We are tilling the soil of your heart. Will you allow your heart to be tilled in this time? We're going to be gentle with you. We're going to be gentle but firm. Allow your heart to open here. Many of you have suffered in life and closed your heart, shut down your heart, and become self-protective. But this will not serve you, my dears. This is the place where you can open your heart. Allow us to water. Some of you need to shed tears, so the tears that you shed are a sign and a symbol of the softening of your heart. And some of you are frustrated at times. You say, when will I ever stop crying? But know this, every tear that you shed is precious. Angels collect every tear ever shed from your eyes. They collect them in holy vials. And these vials are poured out as rain upon the hardened hearts of humanity. So shed your tears when you need to, and know that none of them are wasted. And there will be a time, and there will be a dimension. Some of you call it heaven. There will be a time and a space in another dimension in which you will never, ever, ever, ever cry again. And every tear will be wiped from your eyes. The angels will wipe the tears from your eyes as you enter this new dimension of your soul's existence. You have our great reverence and respect. You have our great reverence and respect for your journey and the difficulties that you face in your journey and the energies that you plow through. We think of you as so courageous and so brave. We love you, each and all. We are ever with you, ever present. You can allow all things, knowing we are never silent. Even when you don't hear us, we are at work behind the scenes on your behalf. You are surrounded by many angels and guides and many other benevolent beings, and you are held in our care. And when you have the privilege and the joy of your graduation day and crossing over into the next aspect of your soul's journey, into eternity, you will look back on every single moment of this existence, and every single moment will have meaning for you, will have resonance for you, will have worth and value for you. And you will see how everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the joy, the pain, all of it put together is the sum of the completion and perfection of your divinity. And you will rejoice at all of that. And so today, as this vessel wept her tears of release, of sadness, they were tears of gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Yes, yes, yes. And in this you overcome. In this you overcome when you are suffering at the hands of whatever is going on in your life, and yet you still find gratitude. You still are able to say from your heart, to all that is, I don't, as this vessel said this afternoon, to all that is, I don't even feel I have even the smallest glimpse yet of all that you are. or what you mean to me or to existence. But whoever you are, wherever you are, to you I surrender. To you I surrender. And I express my gratitude. And we have been impressing upon her today, and we will share it here. There are angels of the highest order. These angels are of a far higher order in your understanding than we. They do not minister to humans. They only minister to the all, to the one. And these beings, you call them the Seraphim. And this, we will tell you their job. We will tell you the reason for their existence. They continually say, day and night, day and night, day and night. They never, never, never cease to say, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and who is to come. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and who is to come. Holy, 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 holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and who is to come. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and who is to come. And for these seraphim, they do not say this because they can add anything to this one. They can neither add nor take away anything from this one. They simply say this because they are overcome with the majesty, the bliss, the glory, the unspeakable mystery of this one. And so they are compelled from the depths of their being to continue saying this. Yoholy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and who is to come. And so if you find yourself in times of being speechless, of being laid low in your life, of not knowing, of being lost, you can simply join these seraphim and let this be your heart cry, and this shall be your deliverance. Thank you, Judah. Thank you, sweetie. Stay for these. Woo. You guys doing okay? Whew, that helped me. I hope it helped you as much as it helped me. Ask Judah event if you have a question for Judah, or you want some healing and maybe you're not in a position to afford a personal session right now. You can show up for that event. We have an hour where I take questions. I can't get everybody in, but I'll get as many people in as I can. You can ask Judah a question directly. And in the second hour, we do a group healing. They are very powerful and transformative, and we would love to see you there. Okay, much love to all of you. Seats are limited to 100 participants. Learn more and register by following the link in description, scanning the QR code, or by going to www.thejudahchannel.com/events. Reserve your spot today. All right. We breathe. If there's anybody here that likes notes, I made a few copies, but I knew everybody wouldn't want them. If you're a teacher, student type person like me and you want to take them. So tonight I wanted to just share for a little while about an overall approach to spiritual growth and this beautiful journey that we're all on in all different ways. Some people are on the journey by coming to church on Sundays. Some of them are by gardening, growing their beautiful plants, taking care of animals, raising children. Some people by meditating. living in an ashram, building beautiful works in the earth. I don't know what they are. It's different for everybody. We all have a different journey. So everything we're doing in the Judah channel is not to tell you how you should be having your journey, but just to share our own and hope that it encourages you some way in your own journey. So being a few years into this, and of course many years into my journey, started as a little girl, and I've kind of made all the mistakes, perhaps, maybe not all of them. I'm sure there are a few left, but I've made a lot of mistakes in my own journey, learned a lot. And I also have the great privilege of listening to people just like you guys, people from all over the world, and help them with their journeys. And so I've kind of assembled this teaching from some things I've taken away from that. So my understanding of spiritual growth in this process of going from where we are in perhaps in unconsciousness, maybe some of you are like me, maybe lived a lot of years really unconscious, and then are kind of in an awakening process where you kind of wake up and everything's getting shaken up and you're realizing, oh crap, what have I been doing with my life? This isn't working, and I've been sold a bill of goods and I bought it, and it's not worked for me. So we call this awakening sometimes, right? Maybe you're full on in, maybe you have a goal for enlightenment in this life. Maybe you, and all of us, from what Judah has told me, have this potential to be a Christ, to be a Buddha, to be a Maharaji, to be a Anandamayama. We all have the potential to be the Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie's of the world. And maybe that's a goal for you, for your soul. But whatever path you're on, for me, spiritual maturity equals emotional maturity. That's what I have found to be true for me. And the real sign of spiritual growth and maturity is when we're growing and more grounded and healed in our emotional state. So I drew this little, somebody drew something on there that can't be erased, but I drew this little chart, and I have it here for the notes if anybody wants to take some copies home, or I can email them to you, of 3 ways that we can approach our own personal growth process. We can be in a comfort zone, that's the center, a challenge zone, which is like the sweet spot where we're really making progress. We have momentum and we're growing as a person and expanding into our highest best self. And then we have the overwhelm zone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these 3. And it can be a constant, we can move in and out of these different 3. And when this teaching tonight is kind of for awareness, so you can identify where you tend to operate. Do you operate in a comfort zone, a challenge zone, or an overwhelm zone? And if you move into a zone that's not comfortable or not working for you, causing you pain, how you get back to that challenge zone, which is a sweet spot. So the first realm of the comfort zone and the outer one, the overwhelm zone, these are ego-driven. They are ego-driven. But the middle one, this challenge zone, is a sweet spot. That's where we're spirit-led, and there's true growth and true transformation and true change, and the change is sustainable, and it's led by spirit. There's a grace around it. Yeah. So let's talk about the comfort zone first. The comfort zone is our comfort cages. It's really a better term for it would be false comfort. Yeah. It's based on, well, if you're Pink Floyd fans like us, you know the Comfortably Numb song? Yeah, being kind of comfortably numb. And if we're in this comfort zone, we can have injuries or be stuck in our lower chakras, the red, the root, sacral, solar plexus. The red ray, the root chakra, is where we might suffer from issues around our home, like homelessness or not having stability in our home, issues around sex, suffering around sex, money, love, not having stable structures in our life. The orange ray, our sacral, is about nourishment. Then the solar plexus is about anger, power, if we are in a comfort zone, we can be giving up our power to other people. A lot of people stay in a comfort zone in a relationship, right? Because it's easier not to leave the relationship, and so they give up their power to somebody else. They become something they're not. They sacrifice their true authenticity to stay in the relationship. And this keeps them stuck in that solar plexus area, and it starts showing up as anger. Yeah. The orange ray, the sacral area, that can be about, that's where we feel a lot of fear and anxiety and just the instability of that. And sometimes fear will keep us from changing and growing. And so when we're in this comfort zone, we'll struggle in these lower areas, and you might end up with disease in the lower areas as well if you stay in this comfort zone for too long. If you're, struggling with ED, UTIs, bladder cancer, female problems, all those things are lower chakra areas. So the comfort zone is when we're not seeing ourselves clearly. We're just not letting ourselves see the truth about ourselves and our situation. And we don't usually see other people's clearly, or we minimize or deny the reality of what's going on with other people. So it's just kind of a comfortable unconsciousness. In this comfort zone, the ego-attached mind wants to keep things the same, the status quo, because it feels safe to keep things the same. And so some qualities, if you're in that comfort zone of this state, would be being fearful, anxious, stressed, hiding from certain parts of your life, maintaining the routine, resistant to change, not wanting to try new things, do different things, being inflexible. Sometimes people in the comfort zone have boundaries that are not really boundaries, they're walls, and they can be very self-protective, and many times for a good reason, because they've endured trauma and different abuses and things. The comfort zone could look like coping, addictions, numbing out on television, numbing out on scrolling, numbing out with alcohol or weed or whatever the, prescription drugs, whatever we've got going on. There's so many ways we can numb out, right? And just be comfortable. The comfort zone can be avoiding the truth, avoiding being known. Sometimes people in this comfort zone might have a lot of relationships, but they're very surface, and they don't ever really tell you the real shit that's going on with them, because they're avoiding the truth. One of my favorite prayers is, Judah, show me me. Yeah, show me me. Show me what I can't see about myself or don't want to see about myself. But this comfort zone is stagnant, right? Stagnant. Like I often tell when my kids were little, I used to buy them one of those little cheap wading pools to play in the summer, and I would fill it up with this fresh water, and they would have such a good time. And then 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, it's stagnant. It's got green algae and mosquitoes, and it's gross. It needs to be thrown out. It needs fresh water. But we can get this way, right? Sometimes things that we do in our life or relationships we have are stagnant, or even our spiritual practice can get stagnant. And, we need to wake up and okay, this is not working for me anymore, doing this same meditation I've done for the last 3 years. I need to change it up and do something different, or get out and meet somebody or whatever. So, so that's the comfort zone. Anybody relate to any of that? Yeah? All right, so the challenge zone, this is like the sweet spot where we want to stay as much as possible. And this is the power zone. This is where real magic is happening. This is where you've maybe, well, like, I don't mean to say Judah treats is the only thing, but a lot of people doing Judah treats find that, wow, they start really having some major transformations. They notice that their attitude is completely different with a parent or a child, or their work situation shifts, or they get a raise, or, you know, there's some kind of, in this challenge zone, there's some kind of tangible evidence for you that there's growth happening. It can be, the growth could look like you just having a completely different response to something that's going on. You know, maybe so-and-so has triggered you for the last decade, and all of a sudden you just don't feel any trigger at all from them doing the same old thing, right? So when you're in this challenge zone, you see some evidence in the way you're responding to life and the way you feel. You feel more energized physically and more in health. And you may see the circumstances around you change of their own accord, right? Like maybe you've been working in your sweet spot, and maybe you've been in the same job for 10 years, but all of a sudden you get a promotion, or your boss gives you some kudos for your efforts, or that just something shifts, right? You can feel the energy around you shift. That's your evidence that you're in the challenge zone. So when you're in the challenge zone, you're open and allowing. In the challenge zone, you move into the heart chakra, right? And so in the heart chakra, we tend to just think, the heart chakra, love, woo-hoo-hoo, good feelings. But love is kind of a worn out concept and word for us. It really has very little meaning anymore. Like, people don't, and it's so commercialized and so conditioned by society what love is, that most of us have really no clue like how to experience it or be it. But love, to live from your heart chakra, is to live in a way that you're open and allowing to what is. Open and allowing what is. So not needing to change anything about yourself or your experience, and this kind of radical acceptance of everything going on in your life. So in the challenge zone, you have this kind of, your awareness is really expanding. You see your patterns, you see your stuff, you're curious, you are a scientist. You become a scientist in the laboratory of you, right? Ellie becomes a scientist in the laboratory of Ellie Cook Ross, and she's in there, observing, being curious, trying different things, and seeing what's working. She's open to change, right? So one of the key phrases that we treat a lot in Judah Treats is, who in here is using Judah Treats, by the way, just out of curiosity? Okay. So couple of the key phrases we use is, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to change, and this can change, right? And so we're constantly treating and implanting that in our subconscious mind, right? Because we are where we are today, for the good or bad of it. We are where we are today based on all the experiences we've had and the choices we've made up until this point, right? So every experience you've ever had from the moment you came to exist in your mother's womb is an impression in your subconscious mind, and it's learning. Memory, what is a memory? Well, a memory is what you've learned. It's what you've experienced, and it's what you've learned from those experiences. And all of those experiences live in our subconscious mind until we intentionally use magic to change them to something different. And so the reason that we're here right now is because we've made a choice to be here based on all of our memories or our experiences. And if we want something different, we have to do something different, right? Right? That old adage, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So when we're in this challenge zone, we're curious, but we're not judging ourselves, right? Like, we really drop the judgment. And that's what the heart chakra is all about. If I could say one thing about what it means to be loving, to love is to not judge anything. Because see, if we're in sadness, the reason I've been in sadness this week is because I have a child that's really suffering at their own hands from addiction, and there are different choices around that. But the truth is that child is absolutely doing the best they can with the light, the understanding, and the circumstance they have right now. They are literally doing the best they can, and so is everybody. We are all doing the best we can with the experiences, this level of support, finances, education, culture that we have. We're all doing the best we can. But what causes me to be in sadness this week is this thought that it's not okay what my child is experiencing, that there's something wrong with it. So I'm judging, there's something wrong with me, how I'm responding, how I parented, there's something wrong with them. And so that's what keeps us in these lower centers of the root is sadness, the orange is fear, the yellow is anger. So to get myself into my heart, what I have to do is really feel that energy of sadness, feel it and leave it here on the table. Leave it on the table, release it. I don't need it. It's a judgment. Sadness is a judgment. This should not be. Right? So to come into the heart, I want to be in the heart, because obviously what I want to be in this situation for my son is just to love him. That's all. Just be love. Be total unconditional love and acceptance of what is. Because it's not mine to fix. It's not my journey to take. It's not my life to live. So to get in the heart, we drop judgment of ourself, of others, of life being what it is, and this is what love is. And so in this challenge zone also, we're aware of our internal resistance. And if you just tune into this one thing, right, if you can start feeling the resistance in your emotions, in your thoughts, in your body. And a lot of times if you just lay your hand, one hand on your heart and one on your solar plexus, you can, if you're upset about anything, you can feel the tightness under one of those two hands, almost always. Occasionally you might feel it up a little higher, but usually it's here or here. Sometimes if it's an attachment in a relationship, you might feel it in your head, but usually they're here. And so, you know, releasing the resistance, and we're going to do that in the second hour. We started it last week. Did you guys get any help out of that last time when we were doing that? We're going to do more of it tonight because it's just so simple and it's so transformative. But yeah, and in this challenge zone, because we're not judging and we're just feeling the resistance, if you're really super resistant, just notice yourself being resistant, you know, and laugh at yourself if you can. Just laugh about it. And in this challenge zone, sometimes there's confusion in it. Okay, and confusion's not necessarily a bad thing, right? When I used to teach school and I would teach a new concept like math or science to the kids, and these kids were most of them were in the last years that I taught were from very affluent families, and they were used to always knowing the answer and being smart and having the resources and all of that. So if I introduced a subject they didn't know about, that was very upsetting for them. You know, they were confused and they didn't like that because that meant they didn't feel smart. And so I had to explain to them, if everything I present to you, you already know and understand, I'm not doing my job. That means you're not learning anything. And so if I'm really teaching you something new, you should feel confused. You should feel challenged. That's the point. So I had to help them get comfortable with being confused. So if you feel confused, that could be a sign that you're on the threshold of really stepping into a brand new level of consciousness, and that's a good thing. Okay, and the last one, anything you want to share so far? Okay, yeah?
I might also use the word scared.
Scared.
Instead of confused.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about the last one, the overwhelm zone. I see a lot of people in this zone that I work with. I've got a few in our class this fall that's kind of tends to be in this zone. And overwhelm comes when we are pushing ourselves to change out of season, out of time and out of season. Judah was talking about seasons earlier. And this is characterized by striving. I have to fix this. I have to change myself. It has to change right now. And it's just this performance orientation around it. You know, it's like that straight A student kind of, you know, I have to make it into Harvard, you know, that kind of thing. So it's an ego-drivenness of pushing yourself to again be the best at something, to master something, to figure it out, to be on top. It's a lot of times if we come out of if we have a lot of performance orientation, let's say in our home life, maybe making the grade and getting to the Ivy League school was the thing that was impressed upon you, and there was a lot of having to earn the love and approval of parents and teachers. Then when you come into an awakening, if you're not mindful, you can overlay that same attitude onto your spiritual progress. And then you're like, I have to be an enlightened being in this life. I have to see angels. I have to, you know, whatever. I don't know, whatever pressures. I have to be a saint. I have to always be kind to people. I can never say a mean thing to anyone for the rest of my life. You know, it's like this kind of like force, you know, and resistance underlying. And so, you know, and we can even like project all of our crap onto God, right? Like God loves us whether we're lying in a gutter tonight, high on heroin, or whether we meditated 12 hours today. God loves us the same. Nothing we do or don't do adds or takes away from our worth or the love that God has for us. But if we've grown up in situations where we've had to earn approval and love from parents, we can tend to project that onto God or the universe or angels or whatever. So sometimes people in this overwhelm zone are top heavy. And what I mean by that is they spend a lot of time in their higher energy centers, a lot of time meditating, maybe channeling, maybe remote viewing, or whatever they're using their psychic gifts. And all those things are wonderful. I love all those things. I deeply appreciate the gifts of those things. But sometimes people do it to they're top heavy, they're out of balance. They need more energy in their human experience in their lower centers. Let's see. Yeah, so in New Age, this could look like in New Age circles, becoming overly preoccupied with metaphysical experience, astral travel, out-of-body experiences. And all those things are wonderful. They're beautiful tools, but not to the neglect of one's true responsibilities to yourself and to others. Or in a religious context, you know, pressuring the self to be saintly, you know, taking vows of asceticism or fasting, you know, doing like inordinate amounts of fasting or becoming a priest or declaring celibacy, all those sorts of things. Yeah, and so in this overwhelm zone, another thing that can happen is that we're doing what's called spiritual bypassing. And if you're not familiar with that term, you know, take a Google search on that sometime. You know, spiritual bypassing basically is when we're using spiritual practices to medicate or deny or push our pain under the rug. You know, and it's a type of magical thinking where we just think if we do all these spiritual things that we use it as a medicine for hurt, for pain, and we ignore what's really going on with us. Did you want to add anything to that? Yeah, and we can resist or gloss over what is, right? And another thing that can happen when we're in an overwhelm zone is we can tend to, like, we don't like our ego. We make, like, however our ego shows up for us. I don't know, maybe it's in pride, maybe it's in bouts of anger, maybe it's smoking cigarettes, however our ego is kind of manifesting for us. If we're in this overwhelm, we'll just take this really harsh attitude with ourself, and we'll kind of polarize ourself with our ego, and we think of the ego as a demon or some unwanted thing that needs to be amputated from our life. But in a challenge zone, in a sweet spot, we love our ego parts. We listen to these young, hurting parts of ourself. We understand that our ego is the way that we adapted to get along in the world, the way we adapted to our home life, to our religion, to our situations, our marriages. We adapted, we gave up parts of ourself, and these adaptations are our ego parts, and they served us well. And so there's, some honor, right, that we can give to our ego. For instance, like, I often tell the story of Jim Carrey, when he was a little boy and his family was homeless, and he learned that if he cut up and was silly and did this physical comedy and told jokes, that it alleviated some of the suffering that he and his mom and dad were experiencing living out of this van and being homeless. That's an ego part. He adapted to a really traumatic situation by his sense of humor. So do we want to demonize that? No, right? He just wants to love that part of him. Love that young part of him that adapted in that way. And as we take these things to angels and we take them to meditation and we're doing Judah treats, what happens is these ego parts get washed and washed and washed and washed, and we keep the positive self-empowering aspects of the ego, which in Jim Carrey's case is his beautiful sense of humor and the way it alleviates suffering for people, and it helps them to disconnect from their worries, right? So that's washed, and then it's integrated into the higher self. So the ego is not an enemy, right? It's a young, fragile, hurting part, an adaptation to life that we've created, and it is like a little mini-me, Austin Powers mini-me, and they are naughty, and they can get us in trouble, and they can sabotage our happiness, and they can train wreck our relationships, and they can get us fired from jobs, and they can wreak a lot of havoc, right? But the way to deal with them is not to lock them in the basement and pretend they don't exist. We have to bring them up and give them a seat at the table, at the kitchen table, and listen to them and heal them. And we have to release that actually heal. What are these little parts? They're actually literally neural networks in our brain. So we have to literally heal these neural networks in our brain, release the negativity attached to them and the negative beliefs, keep the positive aspects of it, and allow it. The ego actually can just relax back into our higher self. That's what happens sometimes when I start channeling. I'm hearing, I got my own crap going on, right? But I can literally feel my ego relax and just kind of step back as Judah speaks. So I just wanted to share these three, a couple more points on this, and then we'll take a break. I just wanted to share that because I feel like for me, I've been reading self-help, psychology, spiritual books, and I've been reading the Bible since I was 8, but reading self-help psychology books since I was probably 16, 17, 18 years old. I mean, if I had $1 for every one of those books I bought, I'd probably be a rich person. I am a rich person, but I would be even richer, I'll say. But I'm sharing this tonight because I want you to be intelligent, right, about how you approach your own personal growth. And I want you to be kind to yourself, kind and loving to yourself, and not stagnant, and I want you to grow, but I want you to grow in a way that actually works, that's sustainable, right? Because one of the things that happens when we get in this overwhelm zone, if we push ourselves too hard, what will happen, because it's an ego zone, we will have a pressure will come to change back, because we're literally traumatizing ourselves by forcing ourselves to change too much. Trauma, what is the definition of trauma? It's too soon, too much, too fast. Too soon, too much, too fast. So if we push ourselves to change in this way and we traumatize ourselves, then eventually we will want to go back to the comfort zone and hide, and we'll kind of crumble. And I've heard people share stories about having these amazing Satori experiences of total bliss, just total bliss. And they're thinking, wow, this is enlightenment. This must be what enlightenment is, right? And they're just soaring. And then a couple weeks later, they are in the pits of hell, right? So we don't need to, I mean, there are techniques out there, right, to have Kundalini awakenings and all this to kind of accelerate all that. Maybe that's okay, but just be mindful, right? Even your body will tell you, your nervous system can get overwrought if you're doing too much of this high metaphysical work. And we want to listen to our body and honor it. So some of the time in this overwhelm zone, we have protector controller parts that are like managers cracking the whip. Change now. Stop doing that, and we have to know that that is an ego part. That is an ego part. That is not spirit. It's not the higher self. So one acronym I use here a lot is TRY, totally resisting yielding. So sometimes we just need to just throw up our hands, right? And just stop trying and just yield. And maybe we don't even know what we're yielding to. Maybe you don't even know if you believe if there is a God or whatever. But know there's something bigger than you, whatever that is, right? Like in AA rooms, they say God is a group of drunks. What they mean by that is when you get together in a room like this and you meet some other people and you create a group consciousness, there's some wisdom in that, wisdom beyond what you have for yourself, yeah? Another thing we can do in the overwhelm zone is compare ourselves and our journey to other people's. And we should never do that, right? Never do that. Even like the child that I've been sharing about, who knows what he's experienced in lives past? Who knows? Maybe he was an animal soul in the last life. Maybe he's a newbie. We don't really know. And whatever things you're struggling with, there is a reason. And it can be in this life, and it can be in other lifetimes. I meet some people that are really fully enlightened in certain areas, like in their business life or in their lifestyle or different their intellectual pursuits and so on. And they might be really low in other areas, like let's say their intimate relationships. Well, there are reasons for that rooted in past lives. And so there's never a reason to judge yourself. And you don't have to go on a paleontology dig and, like those little paleontologists with their little brushes in the dirt. You don't need to do that, right? If you have something going on in your life that's unpleasant and painful for you, there's a reason for it, and you don't have to always know the reason. The way you get a victory over it is by facing it now. The past is healed right now. The past is healed right now by you overcoming in the present circumstance in which you are being challenged. And when you deal with it now, the past is healed and the future is released into freedom. And this is why I created Judah Treats for you guys. Okay. All right, that's enough of that. Let's take a break for a few minutes and then we'll come back and do some releasing.